Hello everybody, welcome back to another podcast. So last weekend we had 4 movies that is in theaters taking on the Avengers Endgame movie. So let's see how those movies did at the box office. Alright, so let's jump right in. Coming in at number 1 is Avengers Endgame. Surprisingly, I thought Detective Pikachu might take the spot, but Avengers Endgame held on to the number 1 spot with a take of 63 million. In its third weekend, drop off is about 57% from the previous weekend, and it's still opening so high because it opened at 357 million, and it's going by I think the second weekend was the drop off was about 59% as well. This weekend is 57. Even though this movie experienced this huge drop off 2 weekends in a row, right? I mean, it's still pretty good hold, considering the numbers, right? Because it's starting off with such a large number, even though it experienced the huge percentage drop off, it still managed to pull in 63 million in its third weekend, which is still pretty good, right? The biggest movie of this year right now, right? Domestically it's at 723 million, and worldwide it is at 2.5 billion or so, 2.48. We round it up, it's 2.5 billion. Domestically, it is the third highest grossing movie of all time, just behind The Force Awakens and Star Wars: The Force Awakens and Avatar. And worldwide, it is second behind Avatar's the 2.7 billion right now. Endgame is at 2.5, so it still have some ways to go before it can catch up worldwide to Avatar. Domestically, it will definitely overtake Avatar, 760 million. Endgame is at 723 million right now, so couple million there go, like less than 40 million to go, and it overtake that. It'll definitely reach there probably by next weekend. That's how fast it's going. So but I'm not sure if it will catch up to The Force Awakens. We'll have to see on that, right? And worldwide has still like 300 million more to go before it can catch up to Avatar's 2.7 billion. So we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, there's a lot of people that still haven't watched Endgame yet. I haven't watched it yet, and there will be repeated viewings as well. So we will keep an eye to see how high this movie can go. And it's definitely shaping up to be the highest grossing movie of this year so far. We'll see if any movie can beat it. Alright, moving along to number 2 is Detective Pikachu, a movie I thought could take the top spot from Avengers Endgame, but it didn't. It opened to an estimated 58 million, which is a bit higher than I expected this movie to do. I said the movie could probably open up somewhere in the 50 million range, but I also said that I wouldn't be surprised if it opened higher, because this movie, like the brand of for Pokemon, is huge, right? The awareness is huge. It spans kind of like a generation, right? There's like parents that play the game, watch the cartoons, or now having kids, and and they themselves play the games as well. So there you go. That the awareness for this brand is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if it opened up as high, in the 60s, or I wouldn't be surprised if it opened, in the 40 million range as well, because I don't know, this is before we have the animated movies, and those kind of open lower. They didn't have this high of an opening. This is kind of like the live action CGI mix. That's kind of different. That has the production value of a movie, right? Before, those are just like animations that's are like they can watch it on TV, and they just transfer that with a little bit more production value, right, than what they saw on TV. But this one is like where they dump 150 million in the movie to make, and voiced by, and the main character Pikachu is voiced by Ryan Reynolds, which was a surprise when it was first revealed in the trailer, right? Like, these Pokemons usually don't talk. They usually speak in this gibberish, like just saying their names. Like Pikachu would go like Pika Pika or Pikachu, and Squirtle would go Squirtle Squirtle. They don't talk, but suddenly in this movie they talk, in human voice, deep human voice. And Ryan Reynolds apparently is, became the voice of these Pokemon movies right now. With the success right now, definitely we're going to expect sequels, right? Like I said, there's a game that's based on the same title, has the same title, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. It was a game on the 3DS and the Switch as well. They're promoting the movie, and the movie's also promoting the game. So people who watch the movie, who want to continue on the adventure, they could go check out the game. So it's a very good deal for Nintendo to team up with Warner Brothers to make this movie. And worldwide, it's at 170 million with 112 million from overseas, and I don't think it has opened that wide yet, so the numbers are still coming in. So but judging by the current figures right now, it is a success, right? Reviews wise, it's decent, 63% on the tomato meter, and an A- cinema score. So reviews wise, it's good for this type of movie, right? A live action CGI Pokemon movie. It's actually better than I expected it to do, right? It actually performed better than I expected it to do, and we'll see if it is going to have a second solid weekend. Then we'll know if interest level will taper off, right? Okay, moving along to number 3 is the other new movie that was released last weekend, The Hustle. It stars Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. It's kind of like the female remake of like 30 Rotten Scoundrel, where they team up together to swindle money, jewelry from rich people. It's their revenge on them. And yeah, that's kind of like the female version of 30 Rotten Scoundrel. I said this movie could probably open to 15 to 20 million, and it opened just below the lower end of my projections, right? It pulled in 13.5 million. Reviews wise, it's not good critically, right? 16% on Rotten Tomatoes is not good at all, but a B- cinema score. So the audience has a higher opinion of this movie than the professional critics, although like a B- is kind of like a man movie pretty much, right? That's The Hustle, and Anne Hathaway, and the Hustle kind of reminds people of the recent movie that she was in, which is sort of like Ocean's 8, for example, where that team, there's this female group of con artists that teamed up together to pull off a heist at the Met, right? That party at the Met, and there is elements of that. Because of Anne Hathaway's connection here, right there. She is in both movies. So, performed worse than my projection. I don't think this movie is going to get any better, right? It's not going to get any bump because, the initial interest is not that high. There's still, people are still checking out Avengers Endgame, is because, Avengers Endgame, a lot of characters, spoiler alert, right, went away. Maybe the contract ended and they passed the torch to new superheroes. To carry on, their persona, and there it goes. And we don't know if Detective Pikachu will hold on as well. So, but The Hustle is gonna be okay depending on the budget, right? The budget, I expect this movie to probably cost in the 40 million range or so. Yeah, let's see how it holds up. And overseas, they pulled in about 13 million for a worldwide total of 27 million, but it hasn't opened that wide overseas yet. Number 4 is The Intruder. It's a movie that stars Michael Ealy, Megan Good, and Dennis Quaid. It's kind of like a home invasion thriller. Ealy and Good stars as a couple who bought a house from Quaid's character, but he decided to stick around and try to chase them away, because he's has some sort of emotional attachment to the property, right? His father built it. And there it goes. There's some racial tension in this movie as well. It plays with that. Black and white, right? It dropped about 39% in the second weekend, so the drop off is kind of low for this movie, and for domestic gross of about 21 million or so. But the budget is only 8 million, so it's having some good returns for this type of movie. Reviews wise, it's not good. 27% on Rotten Tomato and a B- cinema score, so it's kind of there with The Hustle reviews wise. So you can expect a similar trajectory for the movie as well. Coming the second weekend. Maybe The Hustle will drop off lower than we expect, but it's actually pretty decent drop off for The Intruder. I didn't expect that. I was expecting a larger drop off. So, yay for The Intruder. All right, number 5 is a long shot. It is the rom-com. Is it a rom-com or a romantic drama that stars Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. Theron stars as the Secretary of State, who's making a run for the office of the president, right? And Seth Rogen plays a character that Theron's character used to babysit. They got back together. He's a journalist as well. They got back together because Theron's character need a speechwriter, and he's a journalist. He writes, right? And there is some reaction there, but this romance is frowned upon because she is the Secretary of State trying to make a run for the presidency, right? And he is this low class journalist, and of course this mix of class is frowned upon. So there is that, right? Reviews wise, it's actually pretty good. 81% on the tomato meter and a B cinema score. So decent reviews. Is for kind of the mature group, for the adults looking for romance. In its second weekend, it dropped about 37% to pull in 6.1 million. So yeah, it's holding on well. Just like the Intruder is holding on well. It opened to about 9.7 million, and then it dropped. It has a low drop off. Of about 37%, and I think it's good counter programming to like the summer spectacle, like the Avengers Endgame or Detective Pikachu. Parents could drop the kids off, and watch something that's more mature, like Long Shot. All right, number 6 is one of the new releases last weekend. Is Poms. It pulled in 5.1 million over the weekend. Let's see, this movie I said could probably open to 10 million because this movie stars Diane Keaton, and Diane Keaton's previous movie, Book Club, target similar audience like the seniors, opened to 13.5 million. It went on to make 68 million domestically, and so it's actually pretty good opening and theatrical run for that type of movie. And I thought this Poms has similar targets a similar audience, right, which is the senior in the group. It's talk about subject matter that's close to home, about growing old and making the best of their time available. I said this movie could probably open to around 10 million, but this movie opened kind of like half that. It opened to about 5.1 million. So we will see, right, if it could have legs. I mean, the opening figure for these type of movies is not indicative of how well it would do long term. These movies that's targeted toward the older age group they don't usually open high. They make the movie over time because hey, they don't rush out on the opening weekend to catch these movies. So right now, 5.1 million. It's not doom and gloom, but reviews wise, it's a little concerning. Only 31% on Rotten Tomatoes and a B plus cinema score. So it's a feel good movie. It has some potential, right? If like I say, it's another movie that's counter programming to the summer spectacle. But we will see second weekend if it could have legs. All right, number 7 is the animation Uglydolls. It's this movie is based on a line of plush toys. I said the brand is not huge for this movie. And the opening figures kind of highlighted that 8.6 million opening for Uglydolls, and second weekend it dropped about 54%, which is kind of large because the previous two movies like Intruder and Long Shot targeted a different audience, right? But those drop about in the high 30s, but this one dropped about almost 55% in the second weekend. So yeah, plush toys you cannot really count on to pull in the crowd, I guess. I said the movie could probably open to 5 million, but Uglydolls opened a bit higher, 8.6 million, so it already overperformed in my estimation. And dropped 55% in the second weekend for a domestic gross of about 14.3 million. The budget is 45, so all in all, right, this movie is really advertisement for more plush toys, for people to buy more of these plush toys. So it's going to do its job. It's going to probably, go on to streaming home videos where the kids will, eat it up. All right, number 8 is a Breakthrough. It's based on a true story about a teenager who fell into a lake that's freezing cold. He was clinically dead for about 15 minutes, and then he came back. And I say this is a faith-based film. In its fourth weekend, it pulled in 2.5 million, about a 37% drop off from the previous week, and domestic gross is about 37 million. The budget is 14 million, so it's doing okay for a movie of this type, right? And it's pulling in some decent numbers overseas as well. It pulled in 8.7 million overseas for a domestic, for worldwide take of about 46 million. So yeah, it's for this movie. I wasn't having high hopes for this movie, but it's kind of outperformed my expectations. All right, number 9 is the final new release last weekend is Tolkien. It is about the author, about the author J.R.R. Tolkien, right? The author of the Hobbit books and Lord of the Ring books. I said the movie could probably open somewhere in the 3 to 5 million range because, I don't see a large audience for a biopic about Tolkien, right? But the movie kind of opened lower at the lower end of my projection. It opened to about 2.2 million. I say 3 to 5, so lower than that. The appetite for this biopic is actually lower than my expectation. So yeah, 2.1 or 2.2 million opening for Tolkien. All right, let's close out the top 10 with Captain Marvel. It pulled in 1.8 million in its 10th weekend, drop off about 58%. It's finally having this experience of huge drop off because it's already in its 10th weekend already, and people who want to watch it probably have gone already, and those people who has a little interest in it will probably wait for home video or streaming or whatever, right? So not a high priority for them at this point. So the halo effect from Avengers Endgame is off. So 1.8 million in its 10th weekend for domestic gross of 424 million, and worldwide it is at 1.1 billion with 700 million of that from overseas. So yeah, it's doing pretty good, and like I said, she's probably gonna be one of these important characters moving forward in the new arc in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Alright, so that's it for the top 10. Let's move on to the new releases. We're going to have 3 Y ones. We are going to have A Dog's Journey. And then The Sun is also a Star. It's a teen romance movie that's based on a book. And then John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. Alright, let's start off with A Dog's Journey. So when I saw the trailer, I said, this movie looked familiar. Haven't we seen this movie before? And there you go. I looked that up, and it's actually kind of like the sequel to A Dog's Purpose, which is about a dog that gets reincarnated over and over and helping out different people who needs him. But this story is centered on for A Dog's Purpose, is centered on Quaid's character as he grow from kid to old age, right? But this one is kind of like the continuation of that. It's still about Quaid's character, except now that he has a granddaughter, and he told the dog to take care of her, so he kind of reincarnated over and over again to help out Quaid's granddaughter named CJ as she goes through life from growing as a baby to adulthood. And this is A Dog's Journey. Right now this movie is decently well reviewed for a movie of this type, right? It's kind of like one of these feel-good movies. 67% at this far. I expect the numbers to go down when more review comes in. But you put into perspective, right? A Dog's Purpose had an 18 million opening, went on to gross about 65 million domestically and 205 million worldwide, and the budget is only 22 million. So budget 22 million, 205 million return. So obviously, of course, the journey is going to continue, right? If this one does well, we're going to see a trilogy as well. Lord of the Rings thing. So the journey continues with this movie. But still, sequels are kind of like a hard sell, right? So I expect the opening to be lower than the first movie. So maybe, it will have an opening of in the about 15 million for A Dog's Journey. All right, up next is The Sun is Also a Star. It is based on a best-selling book on the New York Times list, right? It is in the teen YA genre, romance, in that kind of genre, right? Again, YA novel, target toward teens, about young love, right? Stars Yara Shahidi and Charles Melton. They met, they fell in love. They have a single day to fall in love, right? Because of a restriction that's placed on Shahidi's character. The restriction will become clear as we go on. Not to spoil the movie, but it was in the trailer. She's going to leave the country, because like she is an immigrant. Her visa expired and she has to leave the country the next day. And she gave Melton a chance, Melton's character a chance to make her fall in love with him. And things happen, right? They obviously fall in love, and then they have to deal with her leaving the country the next day. So that is The Sun is Also a Star. Given that it is in the YA genre, it's based on a best-selling book, but those might not make for good movies, as we've seen recently with the YA genre. I mean, at least not in the numbers that like the producer expecting, right? They try to make they try to make these movies that appeal to teens, but teens are a fickle crowd. So I expect this, given that there's a Avengers Endgame as well. That's Pikachu, Detective Pikachu in theaters, and of course John Wick, chapter 3. I expect this movie to have an opening of somewhere in the 5 million range. Okay, finally, we're gonna come to the biggest movie of the three. It is John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Surprisingly, this has become Keanu Reeves' defining movie series, right? This is Keanu Reeves is John Wick. I mean, there was there was the movies. What was that? The Matrix movies. Yeah, the Matrix movies before, right? But those were years ago. But John Wick resurrected him as the action hero that he is today, right? So he returns. The story continues. In Chapter 2, John Wick Chapter 2, he is hunted by the Assassin's Guild. Everyone's after him. A bounty is placed on him, so he's a target for all the assassins because he broke some rules of about not killing in this sanctuary hotel, right? So there's that. If you haven't seen it, check out Chapter 2. It's a great movie for action fans, of course. If you're not into that, then it's probably too violent. But Chapter 3 continues the story. So he's on the run. He enlists the help of Halle Berry. She's also an assassin. She also has a dog. So of course they have a history between them, right? So he's on the run. Lawrence Fishburne is in this movie. Mark Dacascos is in this one, a mainstay in the direct-to-video titles, right? Even NBA stars who plays for the 76ers, Boban Marjanovic, is that how you spell? Marjanovic is here. He was injured, but he's in this movie. Like I say, the second movie was pretty good. I think it left people wanting more for more John Wick. Let's see. When the first movie was open, it didn't do that well, relatively speaking, right? It only opened to 14 million, went on to make 43 million domestic and 88 million worldwide. The second movie, 30 million opening, 92 million domestic, so it's almost like double the figures, right? And 171 million worldwide, so it doubled. So the third movie, right? I say, the second movie left people wanting more of John Wick Chapter 3. So yeah, and I believe they give them more. It's currently very well reviewed. The whole series for an action movie is actually surprisingly well reviewed, from first John Wick to this number 3 right now. Currently 98%. I expect this number to drop a bit, maybe by a couple percentage point only. I don't see it falling below 90%. right? Because the whole series was very well reviewed, it's well made, just for action fans, right? And yeah, so this third movie, I expect this movie to open higher, maybe in the 35 to 40 million range, if not in the 50s, right? It could open up in the 50s, but conservatively, I'm gonna go with 35 to 40 million for John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. All right, that's it for this week's podcast. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.